God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, for I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
In the previous week's passage from the beloved disciples' gospel, Jesus had been betrayed by his friend Judas. And Jesus called all his disciples friend. But Judas, the grifter and schemer, calculated this friendship's worth to him was about 30 denarii. In today's market economy, that's about $1,500. So he betrayed him to the state terrorism functionaries in exchange for about 3 tasting menus at Single Thread. Wine not included. The new Pope, Leo XIV, retells that St. Augustine said, "Friendship is the conduit for God's love in a most lavish form." Most lavish love. This betrayal of friendship must have wounded Jesus deeply, as betrayals do. For me, I've dealt with these wounds of betrayal by keeping a resin pot in my psyche, where I have placed those who would betray me. It's a very effective psychological tool, except for the fact I'm the one who ends up stuck in the resin. This man, Jesus, was as utterly vulnerable and sensitive and tender as a human could be. He felt everything. He had no resin pot. He loved his friends, period, full stop. In today's beautiful passage from John, following the above crushing scene, Jesus makes the strange comment that now the Son of Man has been glorified. This strikes me as an impossible rejoinder to what has just happened. A betrayal and its ultimate consequences leading to glorification. Thomas Merton and Carl Jung both say that the goal of a life, including my life and your life, is that we become utter, true selves. We're supposedly in the season of Easter, and here we are back to Jesus sharing his final time with his friends. The humbling washing of his friends' feet, the sacred meal, the quiet intimacy, the sadness. Now anticipating in this passage what was on the morrow, his state-sponsored execution. What led to this? What was his egregious fault? What did he violate that was so sacred to the powers that be at this tiny outpost on the Mediterranean Sea? The execution of this wandering parabolist, this itinerant preacher. It was an imperative of the Roman Empire. What I observed, and perhaps you too, was his healing of persons, body, mind, and soul. His hanging with the culture's rejects, those with disfiguring leprosy, those besmirched by the culture's sexual mores, those who were deranged, slightly or whole hog. He's sharing the good news of liberation and an end to the reign of death. The presence of a living God and his love for his friends. As it says in the Old Testament, these were all God's Anuim, the vulnerable, the marginalized, those without earthly power, the overlooked, the scapegoated. Any of these categories include you? They do me. This man, this healer, this one who touched the unclean, touched those soiled by their sexual sins, those unhoused, those with such intense body odor and indecipherable rantings. These two he called friends. But his culture, not unlike our own, despised these Anuim, for they represented the shadow side of their and our very selves. They were the scapegoats of Leviticus, those cast out from the community, symbolically carrying the sins, the unconsciousness of the people. And this conscious man, Jesus, in becoming his utter self, performed all of these transgressive acts, all of this touching, all of this seeing, all of this hearing, all these innumerable intimacies as an invitation to others, us, to do the same. For in this we would become too our utter selves, and in this process we become Jesus' friends. And what did these transforming acts qualify him for? Ignominious death. Today's endearing gospel passage from John 13, in which he calls these adult men gathered together, these now 11, though I do think Mary Magdalene was also at the table. He calls these men, these friends, my little children. There's a Latin word for this, carissime, little cherished ones. That's who you guys are to me. And as he is going away, Jesus says, I give you a new instruction, a new way. You are to love one another, just as I have loved you. You are to love one another. In his perhaps most vulnerable moment, when his friend had just betrayed him, he makes this clear-eyed, compelling request. Love one another as I have loved you, intimately, clear-eyedly, open-heartedly. This transforming love will transcend the boundaries of the community, of the state, of the established religion, of our own family enclaves. Again, just as I have loved you into your becoming, your utter selves, the ones the Creator fashioned uniquely to be self-loving and self-forgetting, to become Jesus' friends. Then we're called to touch the scapegoated. Those without legal papers, those shattered in Gaza, those violated in the Congo, young persons shooting up in the back alleys of this town. The veterans so traumatized they contemplate the end. Elders so lonely like newborns they fail to thrive. Well, they are legion, and we are they. I have come to sense friendship is at the core of Jesus modeling for us what it means to be a human, what it means for us to be called carissime, not bound by blood, but by choice, by affection, by listening, by companioning, as did Jesus. And then the joy and comfort we receive from our beloveds, our own little darlings, if you will, has to bubble over to those whose lives are marked by confounding suffering. That's what Jesus did, does, will do in and through us. Look at your hands, at your feet. You're thinking with this mind, intuiting with this gut, loving through this tutored heart, this tender heart, all having been secured by Jesus' visceral love for us, now sent out of these pews, which cannot contain this love, to these streets, to this nation, to the far reaches of the world. knowing as best as I can with my many limitations and evident deficiencies that you and I can love each other. No, we do love each other. And that cannot be contained. It is contagious. It's a holy virus. It blessedly infects others. Brothers and sisters, we will never know. This is how we are transformed. We little darlings of Jesus. We friends of his. Because we know, perhaps finally, if glancingly, that we are worthy of this boundless love and of its unlimited capacity to transform the world.